This is the Offshore Wind Energy Development Challenges and Opportunities for Engineers section of VTech, organised by COPRI. And this is coming from the COPRI Marine Renewable Energy Committee. We're publishing an ASCE Manual of Practice for MRE projects in 2021 with guidance on geotechnical engineering, moorings, and other issues. This presentation is brief and it focuses on the market size for the offshore industry, wind in the US. My name is Bil Stewart. I'm with Stewart Technology Associates and I'm chairman of the COPRI MRE Committee. So our MRE Committee is publishing this manual of practice for MRE projects in 2021. We'll have guidance on geotechnical engineering, which will be quite detailed and is presented in the next session by Bob Stevens, moorings and other issues. But this presentation today focuses on data gathered from the American Wind Energy Association, US Department of Energy, and other sources, including Wood Mackenzie, to put into perspective the expected market size of the US wind offshore sector in the next 15 years. The offshore wind industry in the US is poised for exponential growth in the US. The industry will reach about 1/3 of the size of the offshore oil and gas industry in the US. BOEM has scheduled more lease auctions this year, next year, and in 2022. So what we know about what's in the US offshore wind pipeline is shown in this slide. We've got data taken from the 2019 DOE report, Wind Energy Data and Technology Trends. So I built this chart on the right and made it a bit easier to understand. It represents what 13 states have in the pipeline for their offshore wind farm projects. And the size of the column indicates the size of the wind farm they predict. So Massachusetts predicts 9 gigawatts of wind farms in the pipeline, New Jersey 4.17, etc. So the total of this pipeline known at the moment is just over 25 gigawatts. And using a guideline investment cost of $3 billion per gigawatt, we get a total of $75 billion in this known pipeline. Now looking at it further into the future with data from just published by Wood Mackenzie, we've got this chart. And you can regard this maybe as high-end estimates, but they're probably as good as can be. So 108 billion by 2030 and 166 billion by 2035. So almost a straight line growth. And of that, 25% goes to turbine manufacturers and the supply chain. The manufacturers are mostly outside the US. 64% goes to US construction industry and 5% to our transport industry and ports, and 5% will be cumulative sort of capital investment in O&M, operations and maintenance. And that will end up giving a total full-time equivalent job creation from the offshore wind activities of approximately 80,000 jobs annually from 2025 to 2035. Some comparisons of wind versus oil and gas. Lease sales are interesting In March 2019, the last offshore oil and gas lease sale in the Gulf of Mexico raised 244 million for 1.26 million acres. So that's an average of $200 an acre roughly. About the same time in December 2018, BOEM Massachusetts offshore wind power sale raised 405 million for 0.39 acres, so an average of $1,000 per acre, about 5 times the amount. Another interesting snippet is that from 2015 to 2018, the price of Massachusetts offshore wind space increased by a factor of 500. If we look at offshore oil and gas contribution to the economy, in fiscal year 2019, companies paid $5.5 billion to the US government to extract oil and gas in federal waters. The oil and gas companies contributed $30 billion to the US economy, and they supported 270,000 jobs, 68% in Gulf Coast states. As we saw in the last slide, wind offshore will support 80,000 jobs annually from 2025 to 2035, so about the third of the size. And that's the end of this presentation, just to give you an idea of the size of the offshore wind market. Thank you.